Jack, I know you feel exhausted and disappointed right now, but you must understand that giving up at this stage would erase all the effort, the sleepless nights, and the sacrifices you have already made to reach this point in your journey.
Mary, I hear what you are saying, but sometimes the weight of failure feels so heavy on my chest that I start believing that maybe I am simply not strong enough, talented enough, or lucky enough to achieve what I have been chasing for so long.
That feeling you are describing is exactly what every successful person has experienced before reaching their goals, because the road to success is never straight, never easy, and never comfortable for anyone who truly wants to achieve something meaningful.
The problem is that when I try again and again without seeing results, I begin to lose confidence in myself, and I start questioning whether my dreams are realistic or just illusions that I created to motivate myself.
Dreams only become illusions when we stop working for them, but as long as you continue trying, learning from your mistakes, and adjusting your approach, your dream remains a goal that is slowly getting closer to reality.
Sometimes I compare myself to others who seem to be progressing faster, achieving more, and living the life I want. And this comparison makes me feel even more discouraged and impatient.
Comparing your chapter 1 to someone else's chapter 20 is unfair to yourself, because you do not know how many struggles, failures, and disappointments they went through before reaching where they are today.
I never thought about it that way, but it is still hard to stay motivated when the progress feels invisible and the results are not immediate.
Progress is often invisible at the beginning, like roots growing under the soil before the plant appears above the surface. And if you stop watering it, you will never see the growth that was about to happen.
Your words make sense, but I still feel afraid that I might waste years of my life chasing something that may never happen.
The real waste of time is quitting too early and living the rest of your life wondering what could have happened if you had just been a little more patient and a little more persistent.
When you say it like that, I realize that my fear of failure is actually stronger than my desire to succeed, and that is what is stopping me from moving forward with courage.
Exactly, and courage is not the absence of fear, but the decision to continue despite fear, doubt, and uncertainty because you believe that your goal is worth the struggle.
I think I needed this conversation more than I expected, because I was very close to giving up on everything I worked for.
I am glad we talked, Jack, because sometimes all we need is a reminder that difficult moments are temporary, but the pride of not giving up lasts forever.
Thank you, Mary, for reminding me that perseverance is more powerful than disappointment, and that quitting is the only true failure.
You are welcome, Jack, and remember that every step you take, even the small ones, is moving you forward as long as you refuse to stop. Jack, before you even allow the idea of quitting to settle comfortably in your mind, you need to remind yourself that every challenge you are facing right now is shaping you into a stronger, wiser, and more resilient person than you were yesterday, even if you cannot clearly see that transformation happening in the present moment.
I understand what you are trying to tell me, Mary, but when I wake up every morning feeling the same pressure, the same doubts, and the same fear of failing again, it becomes incredibly difficult to convince myself that all this emotional struggle is somehow helping me grow.
Growth is often uncomfortable, slow, and invisible, because it happens internally long before it becomes visible externally. And the discomfort you are feeling is actually a sign that you are pushing your limits instead of remaining in a safe and stagnant place.
What makes it harder is that I feel alone in this process, as if nobody around me truly understands how exhausting it is to keep trying when the results do not match the effort I am putting in every single day.
Feeling alone is part of the journey for many people who are chasing meaningful goals, because not everyone can see the vision you carry in your mind, and not everyone has the patience to believe in something that has not happened yet.
Sometimes I ask myself whether I should just choose an easier path, something that requires less effort and gives faster results, even if it is not what I truly want deep inside my heart.
Choosing an easier path might give you temporary comfort, but it will never give you the deep satisfaction, pride, and fulfillment that comes from achieving something you once thought was impossible.
I think my biggest problem is that I focus too much on how far I still have to go, instead of appreciating how far I have already come since I started this journey.
That is a very common mistake because our minds tend to highlight what is missing rather than what has been achieved, and this habit steals our motivation without us even realizing it.
When you explain it like this, I realize that I have been unfair to myself by ignoring my progress and only paying attention to my shortcomings and delays.
You deserve to recognize your own effort, Jack, because persistence is not easy. And the fact that you are still standing, still trying, and still caring about your goal is already a powerful achievement in itself.
I feel like I needed someone to tell me that it is okay to feel tired, discouraged, and doubtful, sometimes, without interpreting these feelings as signs that I should quit.
Of course, it is okay because emotions are temporary visitors, but decisions like giving up can have permanent consequences that you might regret for the rest of your life.
Hearing you speak makes me realize that my problem was not the difficulty of the journey, but the way I was interpreting the difficulties as proof that I am not capable.
Exactly, Jack. Difficulties are not evidence of incapability, but proof that you are attempting something significant that requires patience, courage, and continuous effort.
I promise myself now that instead of asking, "Why is this so hard?" I will start asking, "What is this teaching me that will make me better in the future?"
That change in mindset is powerful because when you start seeing obstacles as lessons instead of barriers, you automatically become stronger and more determined to continue.
Mary, as I think more deeply about everything we discussed, I begin to realize that the moments when I felt the weakest were actually the moments that forced me to discover strengths within myself that I did not even know existed before facing these challenges.
That is very true, Jack, because adversity has a unique way of revealing our hidden abilities, teaching us patience, and showing us how much we can endure when we refuse to surrender to temporary pain and frustration.
I also understand now that success is not only about reaching the final goal, but about the person I become while struggling, learning, adapting, and continuing despite the obstacles that appear along the way.
Exactly, because the journey itself is shaping your character, building your discipline, and teaching you lessons that you would never learn if everything were easy and immediate.
I used to believe that people who succeed are simply lucky, but now I see that they are the ones who stayed committed long enough to allow their efforts to finally produce results.
Luck may open a small door, Jack, but persistence is what allows someone to walk through that door and continue moving forward even when the path is uncertain and difficult.
From now on, whenever I feel like giving up, I will remember this conversation and remind myself that stopping is the only action that guarantees failure.
And whenever you feel discouraged again, remember that it is just a passing moment, not a permanent condition, and that your determination is stronger than any temporary emotion.
I feel lighter, more hopeful, and more determined than I did before we started talking, and I am grateful that you helped me change the way I see my struggles.
I am proud of you, Jack, because choosing to continue when it is hard is a decision that only strong and determined people are capable of making.
I feel more responsible now for my own success, and I understand that nobody else can walk this path for me or put in the effort that is required to achieve my goals.
That awareness is very important, Jack, because once you accept full responsibility for your journey, you stop waiting for motivation and start relying on discipline and consistency instead.
From this moment forward, whenever I feel tired or discouraged, I will remind myself that rest is allowed, but quitting is not an option anymore.
That is the spirit, Jack, because persistence does not mean never feeling tired, but it means never allowing tiredness to convince you to abandon your dreams.